Hello and welcome everyone. We're delighted to have you on board today for this webinar entitled Business Plan Writing's Do's and Don'ts. My name is Elizabeth Follette and I'm a program advisor here at HEC Paris. I work in the admissions department at HEC. My role is to guide, advise, and inform future participants with regards to trainings that we offer here at HEC. And I'm delighted to be here today with Professor Frédéric Ghislain. Hello, Frédéric.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
Lovely. Thank you. I'm very well too. Today, Frédéric will be giving his presentation. He'll be sharing his tips with you on what to do when you write a business plan. But before we get started, and before I hand over to Professor Frédéric Ghislain, I'd like to give you a little bit more information about our MSc in Innovation and Entrepreneurship program, which we host in partnership with Coursera, because Professor Ghislain teaches on this program. He teaches business plan writing on this program. So let me give you a quick presentation. All right, so first off, a little bit about HEC Paris. For those of you who may not be familiar with HEC Paris, we're a highly ranked business school. We're actually first business school in Europe. Our school was founded in 1881, and it is the first entrepreneurship school in France. We hold a triple accreditation from the AACSB, as well as from AMBA and EQUIS. We also have 45 joint diplomas and degrees, notably with the London School of Economics, the NYU Stern School of Business, and other institutions worldwide. And finally, and this is an important thing to note, we're in the top 32 business schools for graduating CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. All right. Do you still see us?
Yes.
All right, perfect. All right, moving on. So HEC Paris is also a highly ranked institution when it comes to alumni network. So once you graduate from any of our degree programs at HEC, and in particular the MSc in Innovation and Entrepreneurship program, you'll be joining our community of 60,000 alumni worldwide. So these alumni include former French President François Hollande, former Prime Minister of Senegal, Abdou Mbaye, as well as Jean-Paul Agon, who is the CEO of L'Oréal, Bruno Lafont, CEO of Lafarge, and other notable CEOs and business leaders. All right, a little bit about our online MSc in Innovation and Entrepreneurship. This online program was conceived in 2017. Right now we have 2 classes which have graduated and another 2 classes who will be graduating in June 2020. It's a program which is delivered 100% online in English and in partnership with Coursera, which is a very user-friendly platform. Now, I want to stress that the classes have all been developed by our tenured professor or affiliate professors here at HEC Paris, and Coursera provides a very user-friendly platform. The program is composed of 20 courses or 20 modules and lasts 18 months. We divide these 20 modules into 2 sections. A first part, which we call a fundamental part, which lasts 6 months and is comprised of 10 modules, and a second part, which is called the project-based part. It lasts 12 months and it is also composed of 10 modules. We have an intake starting every 6 months. Our next intake will be starting on the 15th of June 2020, and the following one will be starting in December 2020. Now, as the name indicates, the MSc in Innovation and Entrepreneurship program is a Master of Science in Innovation and Entrepreneurship. So our aims are really to equip you with the relevant skills, on the one hand, to lead innovation within your current organization, and on the other hand, to help you in your entrepreneurial journey, regardless of where you might be in that journey. So to help you come up with a new idea that'll gain traction on the marketplace, and also to help you write your business plan. We'll be talking about that in just a few minutes. Help you raise funds, and finally help you scale up your operations. All right. Now, as I mentioned, the program is composed of 20 courses, so you'll be learning a lot of fundamental skills necessary to, on the one hand, lead innovation, and on the other hand, help you in your entrepreneurial journey. A large part of the program, so 12 months, will be devoted to advancing a startup project. So you have 12 months to work, to get your hands dirty, to apply the learnings from the program and work on a startup venture. It'll either be your own or a classmate's venture, but regardless, the point is for you to gain skills and expertise that you'll be able to apply even beyond the program, even after you've matriculated by the program. And of course, you'll be guided throughout this startup project by entrepreneurs and experienced coaches. All right, now we'd love to find out a little bit more about you, and we'd like to find out why you signed up for this webinar and why you're here today with us. So we're going to start one of many surveys, which is, why did you sign up for this webinar? And by the way, before I launch this survey, I invite you all to share your questions and comments and to interact throughout this presentation via our chat box. All right, and no further ado, let's get started with this, this survey. All right, so I invite you to share with us why you signed up for this webinar. Are you considering applying for our HEC Paris MSc in Innovation and Entrepreneurship? Do you want to scale up your company, your activity? Do you want to launch your own business? Do you have a general interest in Professor Islin's presentation on how to write a business plan? Are you just curious? All of the above. Please share your thoughts with us. We'd like to get to know you a little bit better so as to offer more webinars also and more content that, that appeals to you in the future. Okay, I see about 80% of you have voted. I'll give you a couple more minutes to share your thoughts with us. Let us know why you've joined this webinar. Okay, few minutes, few more seconds. All right, thank you for voting. I am now going to close this survey. All right, thank you. Again, I see most of you are very much interested in this topic, so maybe we'll have a follow-up to this one for the, maybe, we'll see.
Why not?
All right, let's share the results. Yeah, 44% of you have a general interest in the topic. Some of you want to launch your own business, so we're getting some interesting insights here. Perfect, lovely. All right, let's move on ahead. And now before I hand over to you, Frédéric, I'd like to share with you folks a little bit more about Professor Frédéric Islin. So Professor Islin is an affiliate professor here at HEC Paris. He's an accomplished entrepreneur, having set up and managed 2 companies. He also acts as a business angel, so helping out other startups. You hold a PhD in management science, as well as an MBA, an executive MBA, and a master's degree in innovation marketing. So Frédéric is an accomplished research professor. Also, he has experience in the field, and he's also published numerous books about entrepreneurship and innovative companies. So I think you'll gain quite a few insights here about, what to do and what not to do when writing a business plan. So I'll hand over to you today.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Good morning, good evening, good night, whatever, everyone. I'm delighted to be with you in order to share some thoughts about business planning. So maybe I can go straight to, we have a different question to ask and to debate with you guys. So I think that this question probably may sound provocative, but it's meant to be. The point is that many people believe that business plan is not so important. So I would like to know what you guys think about this. You think it's important, or if you think that there are other ways in order to describe and develop a business? Okay.
Okay, so let's see. Let's launch a new survey. So I'm going to launch another survey, and please go ahead and share and let us know. Is writing a business plan that important? Yes or no? Okay, you're very quick to answer this one.
It's a simple question.
Yeah, it is a simple question, but we do
but
have
not that simple, actually.
All right, I give you a couple more seconds. I see only about 80% of you have answered. All right, a couple more seconds. No? All right, should we close down the survey?
I think we can close the survey because the
most of
result is...
All right, and let's share the results here. So 97% believe that writing a business plan is important.
Okay, so you guys are convinced that business planning is compulsory, and I tend to agree with you. Actually, what happens is that a lot of people believe that business plan is outdated. That especially with the some kind of new approach of entrepreneurships, such as lean startup, you can avoid doing a business plan, because actually a business plan is about planning the future within the next 3 to 5 years, and this is something that cannot be done. And I strongly disagree with this. And there is a book published by one of my colleagues about how to launch a winning business idea without business plan. So actually, I was very curious about this book, because I said, if I'm out of business, I should know about this. And in the book, what they say is that you don't have to do a business plan, but you have to do some kind of document or presentation where you are going to talk about market, you are going to talk about differentiation, you are going to talk about HR, you are going to talk about operations. And at the end of the day, this is what a business plan is about. But one thing that is important is that most people have a tendency to confuse a business plan with finance. Okay, and for many people, a business plan is an Excel spreadsheet with only figures and numbers, and this is not what the business plan is about. Business plan is about a strategy, is about a business idea that will have some financial consequences, but it's not only focused on finance. And that's why, by the way, the finance section of the business plan is always at the end of the presentation, and it has a sense. So that will be my second point, is that the business plan is not only about finance. Finance is a consequence of strategic choices that has been made by entrepreneurs based on market research coming from the field. Basically, this is what the business plan is about. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you have maybe already some questions.
Let's see if we've got some questions here. Okay. Anything you'd like to share with regards to that? Okay. All right, maybe let's move on to the next assumption, maybe about business plan writing.
Yeah. So another question I would like to ask you guys is a business plan is about demonstrating value generation for shareholders as a #1 priority. So maybe we can launch the survey and see what you think about this.
Yes, let's launch the survey. All right. So demonstrate value generation, especially for shareholders. Is that a do or is that a don't? All right. Thank Thank you for answering. We'll give you a couple more minutes, a couple more seconds. All right, I think there's a trend here that's appearing. All right, a couple more seconds. Thank you for answering, and let me close this survey and share the results with you.
Okay, so there is a vast majority considering that a business plan should especially show and demonstrate the value creation for shareholders. Well, guys, I'm sorry, but I strongly disagree with this. Why is that? Because in the last 2 decades, you're probably aware of the fact that the number one priority among stakeholders are the shareholders. And that value creation for shareholders is considered by a priority by, let's say, the financial industry. But there are more and more professors, experts, opinion leaders, including Michael Porter. Probably most of you are familiar with who Michael Porter is. We consider that considering the shareholders as the number one priority to create value is a wrong move. In other words, creating value for shareholders is something that is important for sure, but not as number one priority. The number one priority of a business plan is to demonstrate your ability to create value for your customers, for your company, and then once this has been done, that it leads to value creation for shareholders as a consequence, not as a number one priority. In other words, shareholders deserve a return on their investment, definitely, but not as a priority. And the difference between these two approaches is that when you create value for the customers as the number one priority, it's a long-term view. It's a strategic way to consider the business plan. When you try to create value for your shareholder as the number one priority, it's a short-term view. It's the contrary of the strategic view of the business plan. So in a nutshell, it is very important to create value for shareholders that deserve a return on investment, but they should not be considered as the number one priority. And this is a thought that is shared by more and more people in the entrepreneurship ecosystem. So maybe there are some questions we could.
Yeah, I see there are a number of questions here. So let's see. Anas asks, how can I start a business plan knowing nothing about business? Is that even possible?
It's more difficult, for sure. But what not knowing nothing about business means, actually, because in HEC, we have for example, we have a program that was launched 30 years ago. We are very experienced in this field to train scientists, researchers to become entrepreneurs. So this is definitely something that can be done, but it requires, of course, some training, and that's why we're here. So thanks to HEC, yes, you can start a business knowing nothing about business, but you have to be trained.
And maybe it's important to have experience in a certain industry, to be maybe an expert in that industry, if you wish to then create a business in that industry.
Yeah, there are actually two ways to consider this question. One way would be, well, if you're experienced, you know the routes, you have a network, there are a lot of assets that you probably have in your hand. But on one other hand, if you're young and you do nothing, you can disrupt more easily industries. And usually industries are not disrupted by incumbents, they are disrupted by new players coming from other fields. So both are interesting, and actually what would be probably the best move would be to mix people who are experts in an industry and people who are ready to dare and to disrupt.
All right, we've got Imran who asks, I'm starting an intellectual property law or an intellectual property business providing IP services, I need some suggestions from you, Mr. Isla.
Well, enroll our program.
Will
That's
be a good one.
will be my suggestion, because it's a fair question, but it's
a vast
question.
Yeah, for sure.
It's very difficult to answer
in a few seconds.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Gabrielle asks, there is a standard business plan template for any startup, or is there a different template for each different startup?
It's a very good question. Actually, there are no templates for different type of startups, but there are templates for different type of audiences, and public you will have to pitch in front of. So it's more a matter of who are you dealing with than the type of startup you want to launch.
All right. Let's see. Dirk asks, ESG is currently getting an increased focus. How can that be? How can that be ideally implemented already in a business plan?
I think I would need a more.
What is ESG?
What is ESG is about?
Dirk, can you tell us what ESG is? All right. Okay, let's see. Maria asks, would the course also cover the creation of social enterprises? Yes.
Of course. And I'm not an expert about the whole program, so probably maybe Elizabeth, you can answer this question, but I'm sure that we have some modules dedicated to social entrepreneurship. But one thing I want to pinpoint is that even though you do a social entrepreneurship, you have to create value. So you have to sell a product or a service to customers who are willing to pay for it. Because if you're not profitable, the social entrepreneurship will not go very well.
Yeah.
And it's more or less the same question.
Yeah. And there is another class on the MSc in Innovation and Entrepreneurship, which is taught by Professor Florian Hoos, who teaches social entrepreneurship and change making, and he talks about having a double bottom line, a financial bottom line, but also keeping in mind the social bottom line, and making sure that those are on the same plane, so that you always keep in mind the social aspect. So yes, that is covered on the program.
And I think the question about ESG is very interesting, because now we know what ESG means. I think that's it's a very important question, because it's related to what I said before about who is the number one priority, and ESG leads entrepreneurs to consider that they have a vast and more vast stakeholders to deal with. So before, you used to deal essentially with investors, and then now we believe that you have to deal with customers first, but you also have to deal with the environment, you have to deal with the government, with a lot of consideration that are increasing and actually make the life of an entrepreneur more and more difficult, but also more and more interesting.
I see that there are many questions coming in, and I think this is fantastic. Keep them coming. But let's move maybe ahead to the next slide, because I think some of your questions will be addressed as we continue with our do's and don'ts.
Okay.
All right. So tell us a little bit more about this.
Yeah, a business plan is about hypothesis. It's about predicting the future. So it's quite difficult to think about the way to substantiate all these claims you have to do in a business plan. So in other words, do you think it's easy and manageable to show that there's some kind of reality between your hypothesis?
So yes, are there ways to substantiate your claims? Yes or no? Or
yeah.
Sorry, I put do or don't, but that would be a yes or a no. You agree or disagree? So let's see. Okay, most of you are fairly optimistic there. Most of you believe there are ways to substantiate your claims. All right, I'll give you a couple more seconds, and I'm going to close this survey very quickly. If you can add some more answers here. Okay, I'm going to click that and show you the results. So,
yeah, and this time I would agree with you. There are ways to, and well, luckily there are ways to substantiate the claims because there are many hypotheses in a business plan, and most business plan, maybe 90% of business plan I'm looking for, and I see close to 150 business plans per year with my various businesses as a professor, as an investor, as an advisor, whatever. Most business plans actually, they have intuitions. Entrepreneurs have intuitions, and they base most of their hypotheses on their intuitions, or maybe some very particular interviews with business experts or their families, friends, colleagues, whatever. And that's not a good thing to do if you want to substantiate the claim. The only way to substantiate claim is going on the field, talking to customers, talking to competitors, talking to potential partners. And so it's about field work. So if the claims rely on strong field work with a methodology, with a number of customers that have been interviewed, etc., then it becomes more and more robust, and the business plan makes sense. If you don't have very strong field work, it's not going to work.
We've got a lot of questions here, and I think maybe let's address this one from Federico. He says, if you have an idea for a business, but you don't have funds, neither to start it, which should be the best document to prepare in order to find an investor? Beyond the business plan, I've heard about pitch desk or elevator pitch, business model canvas, and maybe there are more. Are there different documents to be used during different phases of a business, or some of them are included in others? What are your thoughts with regards to that?
Yeah, there are many models, Canvas, whatever, that are available today. We have our own, and in the course I'm delivering in this program, I have my own business model Canvas. But there are others, and I also present others that are doable. But the point is that it depends of the time you will have to pitch a business plan, because you can pitch a business plan in 20 seconds. 20 seconds is the time you have when you shake hands in a cocktail party, and you just have 20 seconds to tell the people you're meeting that you have a very interesting project, and you want to have an opportunity to develop and to present your idea in a regular meeting, 1 hour meeting. So we have only 20 seconds to get this 1 hour meeting. Sometimes it's a 1 minute presentation, what we call an elevator speech. Sometimes it could be a 15 minutes PowerPoint presentation, whatever. So there are many opportunities to pitch, and there are as many canvas as many experts on this field. And I would say that there are a lot that are very interesting, and that probably you should pick the one you feel more comfortable with. And I think one of the aim of this program is to present on the wide scale what are the opportunities to canvas and other models available.
But would you say it's a good idea to write a business plan, to have this very detailed idea of your business so that you can narrow it down and have a very compelling elevator pitch?
This is definitely the best way to do it. First, you have to develop a full business plan, and then you have to adapt it or to focus on a very specific point. For example, it's completely different if you're looking for governmental funds with a business plan, because your business can get some governmental funds, but governments care about job creation. They care about some territory considerations. They don't care about value for our customers and moreover value for shareholders. They don't care about it. So you have to adapt the business plan according to the audience you're confronted with.
And this question's been coming a lot, but I'm just going to share the one from Gabrielle, which is how detailed should a business plan be, or how detailed does it need to be?
It's also a matter of the time you have. Of course, if you have 20 seconds, it should be, you have 20 seconds, you have just the time to deliver a vision. I can take an example if you want. For example, let's say that you're the founder of Microsoft company, and you have your Bill Gates, your young Bill Gates, and you have 20 seconds to get a very powerful, very interesting opinion leader, and to attract him or her in your team. And you want to plan a 1 hour meeting, but you have only 20 seconds to tease. So what you can say is that, well, good morning, my name is Bill Gates, and I'm going to put a computer on every desk in every home. Okay, today it sounds, of course, this is what happened today, but 20 to 30 years ago, it was completely different. So you have to take to practice and to be sure that you master these 20 seconds and they are adapted to the people you are meeting.
All right. We've had this question a couple of times as well. Are there cultural differences between business plans in different countries? Do you see a variety there?
Well, not really, actually. There will be a difference maybe on the cosmetic aspects of the business plan, because, for example, if you listen to pitch from US entrepreneurs, they all want to change the world. And I think it's a good thing. They think big since the beginning of their venture, and they really want to change the world. They want to make an impact. If you go to Europe, that probably will be quite different, and people will be not as show off. So these can be the cultural differences, but from the structure, from the canvas of the business plan, it's more or less the same.
Okay, let's maybe one more question, and then maybe we can move on to some more of these do's and don'ts. Marcia here asks, why are people intimidated about writing a business plan? Have you seen that before?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, definitely. Yeah. People are intimidated because, well, they don't know how to start. They believe that it's going to be a very painful process and that will take a lot of time and resources. Let me say that once you understand that how to optimize the process, business planning. Well, I'm going to take an example. When I do a training with my students that have the senior here in AGC, they have 5 weeks full-time program in order to design a business plan from an idea. And the idea, the pitch of the idea is very, very, very short. It's a one-pager, an idea, nothing more. So from this idea to a full business plan, they have 5 weeks, and they work as a team of 3 students full-time during these 5 weeks. And they actually deliver a full business plan, a very professional business plan after 5 weeks. So it can be done in 5 weeks. And I would suggest that if you have 5 weeks, if you allocate 5 weeks writing your business plan, spend 3 to 4 weeks on the field. Because actually, probably for most of you guys, since we know that the average is 40 years old for our program, you're quite experienced. And if it's to deliver a PowerPoint presentation based on data, most of the time has to be allocated to gather data from the field and then to deliver the business plan, to design the PowerPoint presentation. It's maybe 1 day or 2 days work. It's very easy. Okay.
That's really good advice. And you mentioned that before, and I think it's good to reiterate to really get to know your audience. Okay, let's move on to another claim. Now,
Yeah, I mean, business planning is about selling. So maybe it will be tempting to, I don't know, embellish reality and maybe lie. What do you think?
I'll let you answer that question. Is it a do or is it a don't? Ooh, I think this one's less, we've got a lot of, this one might take you a little longer. All right, give you a few more seconds. Should you embellish reality? Should you lie?
One thing would be interesting is to say, where are you from and what did you answer to this question?
That's a good one. All right, I'm going to stop the survey, so make sure you answer. Okay, great, and let's share the results. So most of you believe it's a don't.
And I agree with you guys. It's definitely a don't. Why is that? Because when you are going to pitch a business plan, you are going to face some experts, some very strong experts in the field, in your industry you're in. So if you tend to lie, somebody sometime will actually see it, and then you will be in trouble. And when you lie in a business plan, you destroy the confidence between you and your stakeholders, and this confidence cannot be rebuilt. So once it's vanished forever. And moreover, when you deal with investors, it's actually small local communities. For example, in Paris, France, all VCs, venture capitalists, know each other. So if you are a liar, all the community will know it very, very fast. And then there will be no way to raise funds in this community. So my advice would be to sometimes you can embellish reality because you can just show some kind of optimistic ways of, for example, your sales figures, but never lie on the business plan. This is something you should not do.
Yeah, so you can interpret data differently. And where do you find that people want to lie the most on a business plan?
In which section you mean?
Yeah.
Probably about sales.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Spilios here has an interesting question. How about the case of someone, a stakeholder, potentially stealing your business plan?
Yeah.
Should the business plan then be detailed or not? Should we then, maybe hide certain things out of fear that your idea is going to be stolen?
Yeah, that leads to a more generic question that is a concern for many entrepreneurs about the threat of that your idea can be stolen if you share it. I have two kind of questions, two kind of answers to this very important question. The first one would be to say that in the entrepreneurship community, at least this is how it goes in Paris, France, and I think in many other areas. VCs, meaning investors, never sign NDAs. So they just don't do it. Yeah. So if you don't want to share information, they'll say, okay, well, I'll move to the next candidate, and I'm not going to do business with you. So that will be the first way to answer the question. And the second way to answer the question is that if you're not the best person in the best time with the best team to do your business, maybe you have to rethink and consider that if you're the best people to do this business, even though other people will steal your idea, you will still be the best to do it. And generally, good ideas are shared among, let's say, 10 people. Brilliant ideas are shared among 50 people. Mm-hmm. So The idea is something, the way you are going to execute the business plan is something else.
Right.
So I would say never fear to be that your idea may be stolen, because actually it's already stolen and it's already shared by many entrepreneurs. It may be some very close to you. I've remember some ideas that are shared among HEC students from various programs. And each year we have, let's say, 5 to 10 projects that are run by HEC graduates on the same topic. And that's the way it is.
Yeah. And the success of one enterprise is maybe not necessarily due to the idea, but the execution of that idea.
Definitely.
So that can make the whole difference.
Definitely.
So not to fear having your idea stolen, because maybe you have a smarter way of executing it.
And if you're looking at some businesses, there are different competitors sharing the same vision and the same business. And if you look at the winners, most of the time, if not all the time, winners have the best team. And the best team that is able to execute the idea with more success than others.
Okay, Frédéric, I've got another question here, which I think is interesting. Should a business plan include uncertainties?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. There are two ways to answer this question. Some people in the entrepreneurship community like very much that entrepreneurs show some uncertainties and some plan B, actually. So you have a nominal scenario, and then you have a plan B if the nominal scenario doesn't happen. So some people like it. Some other people don't like it because they believe that if you trust your own number one scenario, you should stick for it. And actually, you should explain why you trust your scenario, and this trust should be based on the fieldwork we talked previously. So there's no a simple answer to this question. Personally, I prefer that entrepreneurs who stand on their idea, on their nominal scenario, and that are able to explain why this scenario have a lot of chances to happen. Because it's based on fieldwork and let's say trustable hypothesis.
All right. Thank you for sharing your questions and your comments throughout this webinar. And we're going to move ahead a little bit more on these assumptions, and we'll try to answer your questions as well. So let's move to the next assumption, which is a business plan is 33% vision, 33% execution, plus 33% cosmetic. Should I launch the survey here?
Sure.
Yeah? All right. So.
Agree or disagree?
Yeah, agree or disagree. So is that a do, is that a don't? All right. Thank you for participating. This is fantastic. All right. Okay, give you a little bit more time. This may be less of an obvious one here. So is it 33% vision plus 33% execution and 33% cosmetic? Give you a few more seconds. All right, I'm going to close this survey now. All right, and share the results with you. Here we are.
Okay.
Does that surprise you?
Actually, if you had more time, it would be interesting to listen from people who answer don't.
Yeah.
How would they consider the mix? What should they change in this mix? And actually, I would say that it's more a don't than a do, because the business planning is about, of course, the vision, of course, the execution. These are very important topics, but I would say that half of the mix is about cosmetics. It's about the way you are presenting your idea, the way you are selling your idea, which is very unfair, actually. Because, I mean, you do a lot of hard work gathering the data, doing hypotheses, designing your plan. And at the end of the day, if you're not able to sell it, to pitch it, you just fail. And it's very unfair because most of the cosmetic part is not something you can really learn. It's also a matter of your own charisma. But that's the way it is. So you have to be prepared, and at least in a team of founders, there should be one who is very good at presenting, at pitching, in order to do the sale.
Interesting question, and thank you for continuing to share your questions with us. Nitin asks, is there a prescribed duration the business plan should be based on, like 3 years or 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, I would say that it depends on the type of business you're in. For example, if you're in software, in business to business software, what is expected that is a return on investment in less than 3 years. So up to 3 years is okay, but the final year of the business plan should show some profitability. Okay, so if the business you're in requires a 5 years return on investment, it's okay. I mean, if you're in biotechnology, for example, it could be up to 20 years before the return on investment. So it depends of the milestones, but it should be adapted to the industry you're in and what are the investors' expectation in this particular industry.
Right, lovely. Well, we still have a number of do's and don'ts, so let's move ahead. Okay, another assumption here is talk to your audience's brain. Now, would you agree with this assumption? Is it important to talk to your audience's brain? Share with us your thoughts. Is that a do? Is that a don't? Give you a few seconds here. All right, there seems to be a trend again appearing. Give you a few more seconds. All right, and I'm going to close the survey now and share those results with you. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, you should definitely talk to your audience brain, but not as a priority. There are 3 areas when you do a pitch. There are 3 areas you should target in the human body. There is the heart, there is the guts, and there is the brain. And the number 1 priority is the heart. So if you want to convince people that your business idea makes sense, and if you want to attract some kind of support, you definitely should talk to people's heart first. Okay, then you have to take to the guts. And at the end, the brain, of course, will be addressed as well, but not as a priority.
Yeah. That's why the elevator pitch and the business plan are kind of complementary, right? They go hand in hand.
Yeah.
The business plan can be the sort of the brain part, and the elevator pitch, the emotional.
Yeah.
The emotional side.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Coming back to our previous slide with regards to, the vision, execution, and cosmetic, we have Gabrielle here who asks, why is there no planning?
Planning is part of the execution.
All right.
Definitely.
All right. Lovely. All right. Okay, another interesting question here from Federico, and then we'll move on to the next assumption, which is, do investors usually pay attention to the data sources used to do analysis and forecast in business plan?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And the best way to substantiate your claims is to have data coming from, let's say, 2 origins. The first one should be data about the environment, the trends of the market that can be based on a databases that are very famous or publications that are very famous, that will substantiate your claim. And that will be one part of the data, but let's say a small part of the data. The major part of the data should come from the field, meaning that it should come from your own market research. And what is important about your own market research is what methodology did you use, how many people you talk with, where did you get these people, and what kind of question did you ask them. And with these 4 topics, you can have a very, very good idea about the robustness of the methodology that was used.
All right, let's move to our next assumption here. Ensure consistency between various parts of the business plan.
Yeah, the question is about, is the business plan is a mix or is it only topic by topic point?
All right. I'll give you a few seconds to answer that one. Should you ensure consistency between various parts of the business plan? All right, a few more seconds. A couple more seconds, and I'm going to close the survey now and share the results with you.
Yeah, that's wise, of course. I wanted to take an example. Any business idea, winning business idea, should be based on a customer frustration. So if there's no customer frustration, it's going to be very, very difficult to demonstrate that your idea makes sense. So the consistency in the business plan will be, for example, between the customer frustration you are describing at the beginning of the business plan and the competition that you are describing later on the business plan according to the canvas, where at the HEC canvas. And from between these 2 sections of the business plan, there are other sections. But what should be consistent between these 2 sections, the customer side and the competitor side, is that the customer frustration rely on the poor job that is done by competitor solution. So in other words, if competitors are doing a great job for the customers, there is no frustration. Okay, this is an example among others.
Okay, lovely. Let's move on to, we have 2 more assumptions here, and then of course we'll address the rest of your questions. All right, so another assumption is try to present the full potential of your project. Let's launch that survey again. Let us know, do you think this is a do or a don't? Give you a few more seconds to think about it. Some of these seem obvious, but then when you take a little bit of time to reflect, maybe they're not so obvious. All right, I'll give you a few more seconds. Have a couple more of you answer. All right, I'm going to close this survey now and share the results with you.
Yeah, I understand that most of you voted for the as a do, but actually this is not what a business plan is about. A business plan should be, one of the key words of a business plan is focus. In other words, you have, again, 20 seconds, 1 minute, 15 minutes to present a business plan. There is no way you can present the whole potential of a project. No way. So what you have to do is to focus the business plan on one customer segment and one product. So one product dedicated to one customer segment. And that's it. Why is that? Because the business plan is about proving, demonstrating your ability, your own ability as a CEO to run this business. It's not about showing the whole potential of the business. It's about creating the trust between you and your potential supports, such as shareholders, partners, whatever. So there's no way in the time frame you'll get, which is very low, to demonstrate the whole potential of a project. So If people trust you, they will trust you to move forward with your project, to develop it, and to increase to grow your sales and etc. But the point is that you should definitely focus. Don't try to show the whole potential of the project, even though you'd like to do this because you are confident about the fact that your business idea is brilliant. And I understand. I mean, it's from a human perspective, it makes sense. But from a businessman perspective, focus on one idea, one product dedicated to one market segment.
Mm-hmm. All right. Just one question before we move on to the last assumption. This is a question from Jacques. He says, some people say timing is the most important for the success of a startup. How do you know the timing for an idea is right and you should justify the idea in a business plan?
Yeah, it's a time to market consideration. It can be popular among business plan experts. Personally, I don't believe in time to market consideration. I mean, if you're late for about the market, or if you too much on the future aspects of the market, you're just wrong. Mm-hmm. So when you do a business plan is a kind of a picture of a reality in the time being. It means that what is today should be based on what are today's consideration in the market, today's customers' frustration, today's customers' needs. And this is what a business is about. So, of course, there was no way to launch Uber before there were smartphones and before there were GPS systems. Of course, that makes sense. But this is the reality of a moment. So, and there are some entrepreneurs who claim that actually they were right, but they were just some few years ahead. And they were right. No, they were a few years ahead. They were wrong. And that's it. So I don't believe too much in time to market considerations. But of course, you have to be sure that, especially from a technical standpoint, the business you plan to launch is manageable.
All right, lovely. All right, let's move on to our last assumption. And I think we could have shared 50 assumptions here. We just selected a few. Last assumption, ask for support. Is that a do or is that a don't? Let me send that on to you.
Yeah, so the point is that at the end of the presentation, you ask for support, or you try just to hide the fact that you have some weaknesses and actually you claim that you don't need anyone.
All right. Let's see. Give you a couple more seconds here to answer that survey. All right, I'm going to close it in just a few seconds. Here we go. All right, let's share the results.
Yeah, you're right. All entrepreneurs, all startups, especially in early stage and even for the future stages, will need support. You always need something. You always need to, I don't know, to be introduced in some network. You need funding for sure. You need to reinforce the team with a specific people. You need to find a new partner. You need to, etc., to have introductions in foreign countries, whatever. Okay, so you always need some support. The point is that to be sure that the support you are asking for is well connected with the crowd and the audience you are pitching in front of.
That's a good point. All right, so those are our last assumptions. Let's see.
Now, maybe some of your questions, if you have some.
Yeah. All right, we've got a number of questions here. All right, Federico asks, I have another question about data sources. Could online surveys, there are a lot of online services that do that, be considered a reliable source? I mean, could the risk that investors can would you say that investors would consider this inferior to going out in the field? What's your thought on online surveys?
Personally, I don't trust existing databases a lot. I mostly trust fieldwork done by the entrepreneurs. I prefer an entrepreneur who based his claims on a qualitative approach of the customers, rather than an entrepreneur who sent a survey, an online survey to 500 people. So in other words, I prefer an entrepreneurs who have assumptions based on 25 to 50 one-to-one interviews, meeting people, physically meeting people, okay? Understanding what people think according to the way they react, well, I don't know, the way they look, the way they sound intrigued, whatever, than an impersonal survey launched to 300 people, and most of the time 300 people are relatives, families, friends, whatever. So I really prefer a qualitative approach, meeting people, than an online survey, even though you have 50 people on one hand and 500 on the other hand. I definitely prefer the qualitative approach.
Yeah, there are certain things you can't lie. When you're face to face with someone, certain things appear that, people tend to lie online. They go quickly. They're like, yes, 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 just to get done with the survey.
Yeah, I'm not a very good actor, but I think, I mean, if you're interviewing me about a business idea, and there's a big difference if I say, oh, this is interesting, and wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
So I think you make the difference.
Yeah, yeah. All right, lovely. Let's take one more question. Who says, so this person didn't share their name. He says, I am a technical founder. Do I have to know the business myself? Can I hire someone else? How much do I really need to know to launch the business? So I guess he's saying, can you outsource writing a business plan, or should you do it yourself?
Well, you have to master some very important part of the business. Why is that? Because at some point you will have to make strategic decisions. So if you're the founder of the company, even though you have a technical background, you will own some shares. So you will have the right to vote, and you have to your vote has to be meaningful for the company, for the future of the company. So if you don't train yourself as an entrepreneur, and there's no way you will be able to make these decisions for the best interest of the company. So I suggest that even though you don't want yourself to act as a CEO because you prefer to act as a CTO, for example, because you don't want to do sales, you don't want to develop the business, it's okay. You can have a CEO, you can partner with a CEO, but if you are an important shareholder, you should definitely master the basics in order to be able to vote for the best future of the company. Otherwise, the CEO will take the power, and you will be marginalized, and it won't be good for the company. It won't be good for yourself.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much, Frédéric. We've gone beyond an hour, so unfortunately, we won't be able to address all the questions. What I'd like to do very quickly, again, I'd like to stress that Frédéric teaches this course, Business Plan Writing, in the MSc in Innovation and Entrepreneurship program, which we have here in partnership with Coursera. So I'd like to give you a little bit more information about how you could enroll in this MSc in Innovation and Entrepreneurship. So in order to apply for our online masters, you need to have at least 5 years of professional experience. You also need to hold at least a bachelor's degree, and obviously to be proficient in English, and to have an entrepreneurial or an innovation spirit. So we're interested to find out how your project is aligned with the aims of this program. Now, bear in mind that this master's program requires a personal commitment of roughly 15 to 20 hours per week. but it can be, and in fact, we encourage participants on the program to continue working full-time while pursuing this program so that you can apply the learnings from the program directly to your work situation. All right. Note as well that the tuition fees for our online masters are set at 20,000 euros. You can pay in several installments. Note that right now we are offering an early bird rate of 18,000 euros instead of 20,000 euros for those applicants who apply before the 17th of February. If you don't have the profile or the funds yet, fear not, you can start with our Master Track Certificate in Innovation Management and Entrepreneurship, and then progress on to the MSc. Note that those classes that you've already taken in the Master Track Certificate will be deducted, so you won't have to take them again, and part of the tuition fees will also be deducted. And you can obviously also get a taste of our MSc through our MOOCs. So we offer 4 open courses on the Coursera platform, and you can also take the specializations. Now, I've gone very quickly with regards to this program and the application process, so I invite you to contact either Suzanne or myself, Elizabeth, on these phone numbers, or our generic inbox, which is msie@hec.fr. Feel free as well to reach out to us on msie@hec.fr if you've got further questions with regards to what Frédéric taught today. We can share feedback and answer those extra questions. So bear in mind, our next application deadline for the MSc in Innovation and Entrepreneurship is on the 3rd of February, and our next cohort will be starting on the 15th of June. We hope you enjoyed this webinar. Thank you so much for staying with us, and have a lovely day or evening ahead. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.